To give you a brief introduction of SCM Pro Forums, SCM Pro Forums is a event firm of the Institute of Supply Chain Management ecosystem. What we do is we conduct events specifically focused on the entire supply chain ecosystem, sourcing, demand planning and forecasting, supply chain, logistics, warehousing. Some of them have been now there for around 7 to 8 years. So we have multiple editions of it done. And some of these events are done across the world. We have done events in Gulf region. We've done it in the APAC region. And the Institute of Supply Chain Management is an institute which is focused on training and education in the area of supply chain. And we have, for example, Dalmia is one of our clients. So is Ultratech Cement. I welcome all of you on this webinar on Roundtable, rather, on procurement challenges faced by the cement industry. This time we decided to go a little micro-focused on industry sectors because we felt that procurement challenges of multiple sectors cannot be dealt with in one umbrella, one broad brush, because there are various nuances to procurement for each industry vertical, and therefore we decided to do with cement as our first go-to roundtable for the procurement challenges. And we are happy to have with us Gaurav Bayati, who is from Procol. Procol is a solution provider for source to contract automation. So he has some interesting solutions which can be offered. I thank Procol for coming on board as our partner in this event. And I have with me Kapil Kapoor, who is a national supply chain head at JK Lakshmi Cement. We have Suresh Rati, Chief Supply Chain Officer at ACC Cement. We have Pradeep Purohit, Senior Vice President at Star Cement. And we will also be joined by Saurabh Palsania, who is the Executive Director at Dalmia Bharat Cement. And of course, we have Gaurav with us. So essentially what we want to achieve in the next 1 hour's time is that we want to explore a few themes, broader themes which run in the cement industry procurement. With companies facing more pressure than ever to deliver savings, procurement teams can offer not just short-term relief, but also long-term rewards. In an industry and a time when there is significant price erosion or inability to raise prices at will, companies are finding it increasingly difficult to manage costs and cash positions. The last 1 year has demonstrated the importance of cash and management of cash as crucial to our survival and sustainability. Where do we find relief? Of course, in the procurement organization, which can play a very leading role in the company's efforts to address issues and capture value. But many procurement organizations have not devoted time and resources to effectively pursue operational improvements and strategic priorities. What we will do as over the period of the next 60 minutes is to examine some of these issues very closely. And also I would like you, it's going to be a free-flowing discussion, so we will not be tied up by protocol. It's a free-flowing discussion. Please feel free to chip in. We'll also try and cover as much of points of view as possible. I will also request all my users to keep sending in their questions, which we definitely will take up towards the end of the session. And if some of them are very interesting, probably we could take them up in between also. When you're sending in this request, I would also request you to kindly mention the person from whom you would like to answer. You can do that by using the chat button on your screen. So you have a chat button. By using the chat button, you can send us a question and we will be able to take it up and answer it. So without wasting more time, I would like to start today's proceedings by inviting Mr. Suresh Rati to first give us his view on what are the major challenges that the cement industry, the procurement function in a cement industry is. Since Suresh Rathi is also Chief Supply Chain Officer, I think, so one of the areas where I would like you to probably focus in is also that around 25% of your total spend is towards logistics as service, and therefore they form a significant part of procurement in your industry. So if you could start from those challenges, then we could move ahead.
Thank you, Grace. So good afternoon, everyone. The first point which I would highlight all of you is this is a century where we are living, and unfortunately looks like without license, because the amount of the furor, amount of voice against such kind of industry which are depending on Mother Earth is very, very high. The next generation which we see in this period of time, Gaurav could be one of those next gen kind of chap who is raising so much of voice on the earth that why you people are destroying Mother Earth. So we come from those industries which somehow depend, for manufacturing you need to depend on Mother Earth. So let it be something like steel which comes from iron ore, or let it be cement which depends on limestone. These are the industries, therefore the sustainability comes into the forefront. And that's the biggest challenge. We have always heard that cement is made out of limestone. And we have heard that steel is made out of iron ore. But our children are not ready to accept it. They said that was something which was taught in the books. Sorry. You need to find ways out. How do you make cement without disturbing the eco balance, without disturbing the Mother Earth? That what does it mean is, can you make cement out of minimum amount of limestone? So the challenge for this industry is, therefore, I'm not saying you can do without limestone at this point of time, but yes, what people have found solution in this period of time is, how do we make more cement out of minimum limestone? So in a sense, what we call in our industry, we call clinker factor. So how do you keep lowest clinker factor? And of course, for making 1 ton of clinker, you need about 1.4 tons of limestone. So how do we keep this ratio minimum for every ton of cement? That's the challenge in the sustainability point of view. And that also is true for the procurement, because if you don't consume limestone, then you need to consume something else. You need to procure that raw material, which is not depending on the Mother Earth. That means anything other than limestone, which doesn't come out of Mother Earth, is acceptable to the new generation. So multiple sources of that kind of thing, we need to find that. In the past, we used to depending heavily on the fly ash. We used to depend on the steel industry waste, which is called slag, blast furnace slag. But unfortunately, the new kind of a sustainability drive which is happening across the globe now, they are not saying slag is a right source. Sorry, there is a carbon technology behind, and unfortunately, slag is also not very well acceptable, because slag actually comes from a steel industry, and that causes another sense of carbon. So in that sense, I'm saying the fly ash is the one which is natural pozzolana material. But unfortunately, the fly ash itself, we all know there is just so much of voice against carbon, because it comes out of coal. And people are saying, why are you consuming fossil fuel? For your power need, you must depend on the solar, wind, or whatever you call hydrogen, and number of things, but not on the fossil fuel. So if you don't, depend on the fossil fuel, then challenge for this industry is very, very high. And we can see it, the real challenge in the last 2 years, which everybody, even including India, also faced, was shortage of fly ash. The fly ash is not available where it should be available, and fly ash is not available in the pockets where cement industry is, situated. As a result, some of my eminent speakers will also, highlight this. They are dragging the fly ash. I use the word drag, not really logistics, because this is the worst item which can be, carried by anybody. But that's the way it is being dragged for almost like 400, 500, 600 kilometers. And that's where the logistic challenge comes into this industry. So Girish, very good that you actually link both this subject. And logistic is a heart of the raw material for cement industry, because whatever raw material you consume, they are all going to be dirt cheap in terms of their face value, in terms of their product value. But the amount of money which you spend on the logistics is mind-boggling. I would say 10-90 is the ratio, 20-80 is the ratio. 20%, 10% is the cost of material, 80% is the cost of logistics. So from that point of view, I say the challenges for this industry is how do we consume minimal of these kind of resources and consume those material which are not forcing you to incur that much of logistic cost. That means you have to look around nearby you. You don't have to go 200 kilometers, 300 kilometers beyond. We have to forcibly look around us, and we need to find solution on that. So Holcim has been doing a lot of work in the past 3 years, and we are happy to say that at least now there is a solution from demolition waste. So like you see people break old houses, they make new houses. That's a kind of evolution. So how do we make cement out of demolition waste? This is just one thought. So just thought of sharing this part, that the challenge of the all procurement industry in cement today is how do you look nearby you and not go too far and consume those material which are all around us, but we have never thought that they are worth making cement. With that, I'll just take a pause here and over to you, Girish. Thank you.
Thanks, Suresh. Kapil, if I could invite you to come in at this point in time with the same question. From a sourcing perspective or a procurement perspective, what are the most of these cement plants are in areas where natural truck population do not congregate. Some of them are isolated factories, and if there is a cluster, then probably you have some kind of a draw where some truckers do come in. What are the challenges that you face in understanding this whole, in getting these kind of logistics operations off ground in such remote locations?
See, before answering your question directly, let me first give some response to Suresh ji. In fact, I would like to add a couple of points which he just mentioned, that this industry is considered as I would say bad industry. We are paying 28% GST tax because it is considered to be under the under that kind of radar that it is a bad industry. But the reality is this is one of the industry which is helping in cleaning up all the waste material. Whether you call it, we call it alternative fuel, but reality it is municipality waste. It is the unnecessary plastic that we are using as fuel, or we are using it for our own cement manufacturing. So, and apart from that, across globe, if you compare our cement industry in the country, it's one of the most greenest and most efficient, but still a lot of question marks comes on the industry. But anyway, if I come back to the point that you asked, that cement clusters or the plants which are located at those places which are not transportation hub, I don't completely agree with that, because maybe in the beginning when the industry started, this could have been the case. But after so many years, I think limestone clusters are already defined across the country, and those clusters are already having enough transportation. Rather, cement industry has made those locations as transportation hubs. So which other industries are taking benefit of? Of course, there might be some more unexplored limestone clusters which are now developing across different states. There, I agree with you that initially there will be some challenges, but the kind of business that this industry gives, specifically in terms of rotation, it might be not very lucrative, but the rotation at which this industry runs, you will definitely get enough trucks and enough drivers, transporters. It's not that difficult. Difficult part is when these these things, these transporters get into a wrong dimension. I won't say wrong dimension, but yes, the strike, unionization, and all those things, which sometimes create problem in doing proper business. So that looks to be becoming a bigger challenge now across the country. That small places, people are now uniting together and then doing strike and disturbing the business. They are not letting the level playing field available for the truck drivers, small truck drivers.
Thanks, Kapil. If we have Mr. Saurabh Palsania from who has joined us.
Sir, good evening, all of you. Good evening, Rathi, Kapil ji.
Good evening, Saurabh sir.
Good evening.
We just started a few minutes back.
Sorry.
Come in and you had a. Yeah. If I can take the question over to you, Pradeep, what do you think are the challenges of procurement in the cement industry?
Well, Chris, if we talk of procurement in cement industry, the major raw materials, if we call, are our whether it is limestone or these mining materials, which are actually coming from our own captive mines. So the major material that we procure, where the value goes in, used to be in fuel. It is coal, or it is PP bags, which is needed for packing, or it is fly ash, gypsum. So 2 or 3 these commodities are being procured, whether it is gypsum or coal or PP bag. Again, PP bag, when we say it is a product, but to us it is more of a commodity, because it is the prices are driven. Prices of demand supply situation is driven by the commodity price of plastics. So that way we are very much dependent upon the international market fluctuations of whether it is coal or PP granules, or we talk of gypsum. All these materials are very much linked with the international market fluctuations and the ocean freights. Even the domestic sources used to adjust them according to the ups and downs of international prices of these commodities. So that is one big challenge that we have been facing. And post-COVID, this has become a big challenge. So if we look at the challenge that we are going to have and the next year, next big things that we need to correct in ourselves or in the industry, that will be how do we take care of such fluctuating or volatile situations. Like for an example, if we take coal prices pre-COVID, where for an example, if I take South African coal, it was something around $50 a ton, and today it is $130 a ton. It touched even higher than that. So, and where is this price surge coming from? Okay, some ocean freights and are fueling it, but that is very little. But most of it is being the either China pressure or China buying or whatever the supply side crunch or whatever we talk. But this type of situation, when the industry was not looking as good, the prices of the commodity that we use most was going up and skyrocketing. Similarly, if you talk of PP granules, which we need for our packing bags, the same situation happened in that case too. And these are challenges which are actually putting us or entire planning or forecasting into a topsy-turvy situation for the entire cement industry. When we were in the month of May, June, when we were thinking, okay, this is the time when we must not stock much because the industry looks to be gloomy and the prices might fall down further. Rather, what happened from July onwards was the different side. So that is one big challenge that cement industry is facing, more so post-COVID. And we really need to think over it and if we can debate and come out with some solutions on this, that how do we take some steps to counter such situations. Besides this, yes, as Rathi ji said about fly ash, we are a big consumer of all these waste materials. whether it is steel plant waste or power plant waste. And these are wastes which needs to be disposed of in most environment friendly manner. And cement industry is the big consumer of all this waste. So while cement industry is being considered to be that taboo industry, we are emitting carbon or CO2 or whatever. But the biggest waste consuming industry is cement. And this waste otherwise would be requiring earth to fill. And we will be needing much more damaging environment situations in order to handle this ash. We have our own environment norms in which the ash is supposed to be consumed in 100%. And now power plants are subjected to make sure that 100% of ash is getting consumed. But the problems that Prathiji was talking of is because of lack of coordination between government departments, one department to another department, whether it is power to fuel and fuel to finance, and the coordination between these departments is actually creating this situation. Otherwise, as is not in shortage, as is available, as he rightly said, that we do face problem where we need it. So can we not come together, or all the verticals or the departments of the government come together to make sure that the ash transportation or making the ash reach to the cement industry as and where they need it is something which is very important. And if that can be done, certainly not only power department, but cement industry will also benefit out of it. So that basically, I would like to focus on the challenges of commodity prices, which are so volatile and has been much more volatile post-COVID.
Thanks, Pradeep. Saurabh, if I could also request you to give your opinion and also focus on one area which probably is of a lot more of interest, which is going a little bit more deeper into the challenge of procurement. How do we look at this entire source to contract cycle? And what are the challenges that you see there, and what are the ways in which you would like to get some kind of a leverage on that?
So, Vish, I'll just, whatever I heard in last 10 minutes, I will take some note of that, and also what question you have put across. So, I think, we can divide sourcing, or you can say procurement, in two streams. One is that the upper stream, or you can say the high cost stream, which is raw materials and fuel and raw materials. And the other part is that the other, you can say, MRO items, what we talk about. And when we talk about the upper stream, that is high cost items like raw materials and fuels, in current scenario, there's a lot of things going on, but in a very unorganized way. But people like, say, what Mr. Pradeep is interested in, maybe coal and fly ash, which is really a challenge in Northeast. And maybe Rathiji also knows about slag and fly ash in eastern part of India. And the scenario is totally different. If we talk about northeastern part, there is no fly ash, almost no fly ash. Everything comes from east. And even of slag, if we talk about there is no use, or there is no feasibility of using slag in Northeast. While similarly, if we compare it with East, then abundance of fly ash and abundance, we cannot say abundance, but equally demand supply scenario is almost equal of slag in East. Now, what happens that if we want to optimize the things, or if you want to say that we are, the cement kiln is the Nilkant of India, where it can consume anything into it, then what we need to see is that there is parallelly a policy. Like there was one of the good policies which was coming up since last 2-3 years, but still it is to be released finally. That is National Resource Economic Policy, which clearly talks about polluter to pay. And it has covered seven items somewhere, 7 industry waste into it, and which are mostly the most talked about items. It may be plastic waste, electronic waste, steel waste, aluminum waste. All those items are being talked about there, and polluter has to pay. similarly, there is a notification, fly ash notification, which is under pipeline, which is yet to be released, where again, poly to pay concept is there. And if the pond ash or dry fly ash is not lifted, then they are bound to pay 1,000 rupees per ton penalty based on certain lifting percentage year on year. Now, all these things are in pipeline. And I think infer that Radhiji has said that industries or say ministries have to work in sync. And that is where the gap is. Like MOEF, or you can say Niti Aayog is working for doing something good. Maybe some other ministries which are affected, maybe CRC or maybe Ministry of Power, they are not in sync with this, and thus the notification is in abeyance. And if it comes out, I can say that 1,000 or lakhs of acres of land will be free, and the government can utilize it into building new infrastructure, and there will be no dearth of land across India. So similarly, industry like us will be able to save limestone by decreasing the percentage of clinker utilization and increasing fly ash, more and more fly ash into it, more and more slag into it. And so this is where we need to have a sync between the industries, like consumer industries like us, and the ministries, as well as the waste generators, where somebody has to pay for the waste they are generating, and industry like us has to commit consumption of it. And that is where the balance will be in the country itself. And secondly, and that's second point is that MRO and all. When we talk about say changing metal prices, what
sir, just one question, sir. If you could also throw some light on the source to contract cycle and the challenges there.
So I think that it is. When we talk about sourcing to contracting, I think it is somewhere covered in not only in both MROs and items, and while also in the raw materials. The point is today with this change in, you can say, a lot of impact because of COVID is one of the requirements, or one of the you can say challenges which every industry is facing. It may be supply chain resilience, which is required. It may be innovation in partnership with suppliers, which is required. And lastly, what we can say is the analytics and digitization. And this is all because why? Because there is volatility in the market, metal market, and every day, every now and then, you will find that every 7 days is giving a different graph for each metal. It may be say aluminum, it may be say nickel, it may be steel, and every metal is showing a north side trend. And in this scenario, what is more important is to innovate and extend your partnership with the suppliers. Not only just to be on the other side and ask for reduction in prices, but to be on their side, design the products also, and see that what metals can be replaced by cheaper metals in production of those items. And thus you can come out with a, longevity in control of the prices. Otherwise, what will happen? You can negotiate today, and tomorrow again you will face the increase in metal prices, and you will not be able to control the prices. So somehow innovation is required to the extent that we sit together, partner together in the design and technology also, and come out with a solution. Like one of the if we again I switch over to raw materials, I can say that a single notification of a 40% discount by railways on freight of bulk fly ash has brought a big revolution in the market. And I think, along with all of us have been the partners of that, taking that benefit out of it. And today the industries, and especially those power plants who are compliance conscious, they have come out and they have been extending a big hand to cement industries by disposing bulk fly ash in open wagons. And similarly, you can say that I think you were also talking about waste, and few of the industries like ACC or Holcim and Dalmia and Ultratech, and I think Lakshmi also now to some extent, they have started using a lot of waste across industries. And those waste is ultimately replacing what? To some extent fuel only. And thus, we can say that we can fight to some extent, although the price is fluctuation in coal, whether it is indigenous coal now or it was imported coal, petcoke, it's means uncontrollable. And but to that extent, maybe if you are able to substitute fuels, alternate fuels by 10% or 12%, you can obviously save your cost to some extent. So that is one of the areas. And lastly, I will like to say on sourcing to contracting is that a lot of data analytics or data are there in the SAP or the module that any company uses. But the challenge today is to get that data analyzed and take a right decision at right time, which is to far extent missing at everywhere in every industry. Why? Because you may have a lot of data accumulation, lot of softwares to analyze the data, but nobody, has enough time to raise that data to an extent where they can invite decision making or they can promote decision making, which is purely missing, and it rises only to the occasion when we find that this is the pain area. Then we start again analyzing the data and seeing what action can be taken. But that is the most important tool which needs to be developed along with the AI, which highlights or echoes in the system that this is where you have to take action, and this is where the data, analytics says, and you have to take this decision. So that is one of the areas where sourcing to contracting also needs to be supported. You have certain softwares with you. Every company might be working with some software into the system from sourcing to say contracting, but data analytics is missing. And another thing is that sourcing means today we have got a vendor base, but that is also, if I say something about say back filters, maybe 4 of us will come out with 4 or 5 vendors. But in India today, there are 50 vendors. And they are not somewhere, we are not able to find them because we are lost in those 4 big names. Now, this is where how those vendors can be given a platform where they can register themselves, like we call it a vendor portal, where they are registered and they are accepted immediately to work upon. So somehow we have to increase the vendor base. Somehow we have to increase the technological base. We have to increase the partnership bond with the suppliers to evolve new products, they design new products and come out of those old, say, designs and drawings, which consist of high costly metal items, and can replace it by, like what we call it, like a almirah, which is of steel, is being today replaced by modular furniture, or we can say, some rubber steel. So similarly, you have to come out with new metals and evolve new technologies along with your vendors, and thus you can control your prices also.
Thank you. Thank you, Saurabh. If I could now come to Gaurav. Gaurav, you heard our speakers talk about multiple issues. Some of them, not much can be done about, as in terms of digitalization. But what I would like to focus on is with you is probably taking the story forward from where Saurabh has left it in terms of sourcing to contracting, and the multiple other issues that he flagged off in terms of data analytics and things like that. Yes, there is a concern that most organizations have already invested in SAP, and now we need other systems which can sit around SAP to deliver that kind of value. What are you seeing is the trend, and what are you seeing is the opportunities that are available in this whole domain?
Right. Thanks, Girish, for that. First of all, appreciate the unique insights everyone has shared here. I think we touched upon everything from sustainability to new innovations to partnerships and digitization. A lot has been happening to imagine what the future of this industry would look like. Globally, many industries and many companies have taken steps to see how things can evolve from here. But more specifically, I can see and imagine companies doing better when they have clear ambitions to to do better in all of these areas. And that's the first step, I would say, for a change, right? When companies themselves are thinking from the top that this needs to change, things gets adapted over a period of time. Going more deeper in each of these, like you said, technology has limited role in some of these, but largely when we started, we realized that companies are innovating a lot in figuring out how it can help. This was not the case 5 or 7 years ago. The trend has been completely shifting towards figuring out the right solutions through technology, rather than thinking purely industrial or new alternatives. Now technology is coming in right focus areas where people are basically working together with partners like us to figure out how they can solve their core problems. We have worked with different industries, but this is one of the most oldest infrastructure industries where the challenges go deep rooted from many decades now. And the kind of solutions that need to be evolved, industry as a whole comes together to solve them. People in this industry are also so experienced that they've been around, who have seen many things from ground up, seen the revolution happening in the past years. And they are only taking these steps to make sure the future viability of their businesses is in place. I see a lot of professionals coming in and leading through technology in these areas. We work with a few of these companies that we are partnering with, where we've been provided with the mandate to deliver a few of these areas of improvement, from analytics to expanding vendor bases, to figuring out what can be a potential good solution for these companies. And that, I believe, is the most important thing for anyone to work on. While we are working with so many companies now, we can work together collaboratively to bring them on the same page and figure out that solution. Early on, when we had started, we had limited access to 1-2 customers who we were working with. But now, given a 40-45 plus base of total customers in many industries, we can cross match, cross debate, cross discuss, get the best minds working to solve those problems. But in many areas, like everyone mentioned, there has to be collaborative efforts even with the government and the committees who are leading these. And we are now trying to figure out how to bring that ecosystem also together, because with that voice or without that opinion, it's hard to imagine what the future would look like when policymakers are making the choices and decisions. So with all of that in mind, I believe we are just trying our best to see what all technological solutions are possible. Given that globally, many of these solutions are already available. It's just a matter of filling up that information asymmetry is what we believe in a large extent. The era of analytics and advanced predictiveness is already available globally. It's not a new technology in our domain. Having come from companies like Google, there's petabytes of data available across the globe. And the way you structure it, the way you position it, the way you build things around it makes all the difference. Which is why it's more of a long-term investment is how we see with these companies who we are working with. It's a longer roadmap to deliver on and build on. Given all of these companies have such data as well, a large extent of databases filled in with manuals, filled in with transactions, filled in with interactions. Someone has to come in, clean it, classify it, understand what they're trying to figure out of it, and then provide solutions that fit their use case, their need gaps. That's broadly what we believe we are helping towards doing.
Interesting. Yes, yes, that's indeed the bigger challenge. We have huge amount of data. Probably we are using 5% of it or 10% of it. How to unlock value from what you have is a very challenging task with most firms. And this has been there throughout the history of computerization. It is I remember a study way back some 10, 15 years back where McKinsey said that companies use hardly 5% of the data that they have in analytics. That I think it's a trend that still continues until we find some solution. Someone can come in and say that I can help you and I can do it much better and easily. Suresh, sir, if I were to come back to you, one of the core elements of collecting data in a way that is amenable to analysis is also to have a strategy for digitalization. What do you think are the, what is your opinion on how should we look at this whole function of digitalization of the procurement function? Where should we focus?
Thank you, Grace. So I just quickly, I would touch upon about 3-4 points. The first one is, as my colleague speakers have spoken, one is the vendor portal. This is something which is a minimal thing. I would say it's a minimal. They start with something like vendor portal. The idea is to collaborate with vendors and reduce all that fat, which is, in the name of so-called procedures, it has lied with the company for last 20, 30, 40, 50 years. So how do we collaborate with vendor by providing a simple interface, a simple and secure interface? So that is first thing which I would propose. The second one is whatever ERP you are using, how do we provide an integration to it? Because if integration is not there, then you do not see the two things in one window. And if you don't see two things in one window, then you always have a bias between two windows. The windows we create and then we start saying that this window is different and this window is different. Moment you combine them and put in one window, that's called integration. So I would say integration is very, very important for taking the full value out of the data which you have. The third one will be, spend transparency. Whatever is your spend management, whatever is your spend, how are you able to bring this transparency on that kind of a forum? Because my problem is my problem. This is the belief I have been having for last 20, 30, 40 years. But moment I put my problem on the board or on the transparency portal, then what happens? There could be a multiple vendors who will be there out in the field, and they will be able to collaborate with me. So the idea is not only spend management, but also make it spend transparency. That means how do we bring TCO cost into one platform? Because it's not about per ton of material. It's not about per ton of cement. It is about per ton of lifetime use of that product. So it's not about selling cement of per ton and then forgetting about it. No, I think I need to go one mile extra and talk about per ton of concrete, per ton of overall building material solution for him. And then finally, I would say per year of his cost. So cement incidentally is, is the cheapest product, at least on the Indian kitchen. Why I go cement to kitchen is the salt is the cheapest thing which we always believe. The salt is about in India is about 10 rupees a kg. With that logic, a 50 kg bag would have cost 500 rupees. But unfortunately, the prices in average India is about 250, 300, 350 kind of range. So I'm saying with that cheap product, you need to be really, really smart in terms of your procurement, in terms of keeping your cost down. And that is where, as you rightly said, the data analytics play a big role. How do you see this digitalization capture the right kind of data? So while I agree that we are using hardly 5%, but the story is, what is that 95% remaining? Some of that data may not be useful today. You need to figure out what data is really useful to you today. And that's where I think what you said is very, very important. Capture the data which is starting point of the journey. If you capture something which is the end of the journey, then you won't be able to actually make use of data. So my sense is similar is the case on logistics. We have to capture the data at the consumer end, or where is the need of the trucking. So like Uber, Ola or Uber, they have actually proved it. So by way of predictive analytics, they were able to guess it. Which are the areas where you will have highest chances of getting customers? So I'm saying data is important, but right inside of the data as to what is required today, that is really, really the key. And then predictive analytics is something which can take you there to use the remaining 80, 90, 75% of the amount of data which you have. With that, I will throw that session open to many other people, because this is a very, very interesting field, and I cannot complete in let's say 10 minutes or 1 hour. But I am happy that you touched this point. Thank you, Girish.
Thank you, Suresh. Kapil, if I were to bring the same question to you and also take it a little bit more deeper in terms of, Suresh did speak about spend analytics and visibility. How easy is it for us to gain spend visibility, or what do you think we need to do to harness the power of spend analytics?
Girish, what I feel is almost all the cement industry, all the cement companies already has one or other ERP system available with them, which captures a lot of data, including our company. But the problem is either the master data is not managed well, or the processes followed by the companies are not standard. Those are customized processes. And a lot of time we try to fit our use cases into the system by doing a lot of customization. That is where the biggest problem lies to scale up our analytics landscape. If we somehow resolve this issue, then there are n number of softwares available, starting from descriptive analysis to predictive analysis to prescriptive analysis to data science. Everything is available across globe and not very costly also. These are within our reach. But the only problem is quality data. Without that quality data, whatever inference that you are going to get will be definitely not take you to the place where you want to reach. So whether you call it spend analysis or you call it forecasting of your demand or forecasting of your supplies, sourcing and all those things, everything is dependent on that data, which is at least available within the organization. Of course, then there are certain data which you need to get from the outside also, government websites. There are some more data which you can procure. So to use those data also, there are some softwares which are available, which are like Alteryx, and there are a couple of tools which can extract data, transform the data, and then you can use it for your analytics purpose. So companies are using it. And when we talk about today's digital organizations like Ola, Uber, Google's and other companies, so this is the key where they are, going faster than us. That whatever work that they are doing today, they are doing in a manner that they are able to use that data quickly and then convert that into usable inferences.
Thanks, Kapil. Kapil, you did introduce also a wide range of the type of analytics which you can use within the firms, starting from plain descriptive and predictive and prescriptive. Pradeep, if I were to bring this across to you and check with you as what do you think is necessary and just condition for us in terms of using analytics from two perspectives? One is that how capable are people within our own firms, or what is the kind of capability that we need to build in them to use these in a more effective way?
This question is now in the post-COVID era, this is even more pertinent. Now, the thing is, if we take a step back and whatever has been said as far as 5% of the data which is available to us is being utilized or analyzed, and then we use it, and the 95% remains dormant. But even this 5%, today what is happening is with the pandemic that we have had and the situation that we have last 1.5 years, the situation is that even that data or the base data or the historical data is of very less relevance. Now everything is set to zero. I would rate it that way, that everything is set to zero. Now the analytics or the data analytics that we are talking of needs to be even more responsive, even more real time in order to make projections or take forecasting and make a forecast which is near correct. So in order to make a better forecast, we need to be really having expertise of data analytics, which not every company, I don't say that not all companies are having those expertise with them, but not every company might have that expertise. So certainly those expertise needs to come from the third party service providers, as Gaurav has been talking of, and he is providing those services. But the main focus remains that with this change that has happened in last 1.5 years, the data that is available to us is now the historical data is no more usable, and now the focus is supposed to be on more real-time data and more real-time analytics or market dynamics and even more complex algorithms to be used for forecasting as far as commodity prices or the major cost factors of cement industry is to be forecasted.
Thanks, Pradeep. Yes, we need the history is wiped out in one stroke. Earlier we had ads of geography is history, but now I think history itself is history. If I could bring this to Saurabh, so one of this thing that requires all this, what we talked about, Pradeep talked about also in terms of getting real-time insights and analytics, requires a lot of innovation and innovative approach to the whole problem of procurement that we are facing. What do you see are the innovations that are happening, and what are the kind of innovations that you would like to bring to the industry?
I think one important topic which we have not touched about is that there is a lot of innovation required in the, you can say, inward or outward logistics. If for any cost of raw material, the cost of logistics, which is part of it, is around, it ranges from 10 to 90%. If any of the item which costs, say at a landed cost, it is getting at 100 rupees, then it may be that logistic cost is 90 rupees or it may be 10 rupees. But generally it ranges between 10 to 90 and average out at somewhere around 50%. So now how we are, forcing it to handle it. Maybe that we talk about various softwares, GPS, geographical boundaries of it, then maybe written logistics, maybe all these things have been talked about. But how far the Indian industries have been able to implement it on ground is a $1 million question, which is not happening, or which is happening. I'll not say any of these terms, but I will say that lot more has to happen on the ground, and that needs a lot of collaboration, which we are talking about. See, which is one of the word of this discussions, collaboration. How more and more collaborations can happen within various industries. It may be within various cement industries, maybe suppliers and consumers, that can bring a big change into logistics in India. Maybe because of competition, we do not get into collaboration. Maybe because of some other factors affecting the transporters, that we are not getting into the collaboration. But if yes, this thing has been talked about since last 6 to 7 years or 10 years, even when we were talking about with each other in the cement industry, कि आप clinker मुझसे ले लीजिए, cement और आपका clinker मुझे दे दीजिए, because we were located in such a way that their clinkerization unit was closer to our grinding unit and our clinkerization unit was closer to their grinding unit. Now, if we collaborate to that extent, the movement of clinker can be restricted from, say, today it is moving 300 kilometers, it can come down to 100 kilometers. And thus we can save both of the teams, people can save their cost of transportation. And similarly, this return logistic can be a new norm. We can get into we can make it a new norm into the market. Every truck which is moving into a cement plant can be allotted material to go out with. It may be clinker, it may be cement. Similarly, every truck which is getting into a vendor's, location or vendor's factory can come out with an outward logistic. And this can bring a sea change in the economies. And I think that is a big area where people are talking about since 20 years, but nothing big has happened. And this is where we can collaborate with each other. We can collaborate with, every single truck owner, and this can bring a sea change. Another thing is, I think a big word and big things which is talked about is electrical vehicles. And that can again bring a sea change in the logistic cost. Lot of it is talked about biodiesel. That can also bring a big change in the big logistic cost. And people have to come see what is happening in India. Means I am not saying that India is not innovating anything, but what I am saying is that by the time the things, suppose a new thing today we are talking about electrical vehicle, and I am sure that by the time it is adopted to the extent of 70% or 60% in India, a new thing takes place into India with 30% implications. Suppose if we are talking about today electrical vehicles, or say we were talking about biodiesel, now maybe after a year or so, there is some other, diesel which comes out, and we are neither halfway into biodiesel nor 10% of the new items. So the speed has to be big. It's the speed which is required in India today is maybe 100 kilometers per hour, but we are adopting at a speed of 10 kilometers per hour. So that is where the adoption has to bring, speedy adoption is required. And another thing that you were talking about, one big change that we require is to create an Amazon type platform for all types of procurement. Why to waste time in sending inquiries and negotiating, and especially for those items which doesn't add any value also. It may be that we are buying it at 10 rupees and by negotiation we can bring down it by 10 paisa more, nothing more than that. So why not 70% of the procurement which is done in India in a cement industry, I personally believe can be done through a Amazon type platform, which is not contributing, which is hardly contributing. Suppose if my spend is 500 crores on a fixed cost of procuring MRO, I can save by negotiation 10 crore rupees. And if I don't go into negotiation, I can save 9 crore rupees. There's nothing much, about it. And what we need to focus on is on high value items like, all type of raw materials or logistic cost where we can bring into innovation, and thus we can bring speed into implementation also by, just not caring about those 1 crore rupees which we can save out of a spend of 500 crores.
Yes, quite interesting there. In fact, I was just reading that the government of India is coming up with something called as an open network for digital commerce, which is supposed to create a level playing field where a similar function can be done. Gaurav, what are your comments on the whole function of how technology can play a better role in procurement? One of them was Saurabh did mention also.
This is we call it tail spend automation, right? For larger companies, we do think this can be a entirely Amazon-like experience. In fact, Procol will be out with the solution very soon around this. So we highly believe this can add a tremendous value. We have seen telecom companies adopt this, and over, for example, $10 billion worth of spend, 1 billion, if is their indirect, they have saved 10% cost benefits. There are studies around this around the globe now, and we are happy that there are very few companies in India who can solve this problem end-to-end right now for each of these companies. So broadly, look, technology is going to be at forefront. Every company is going to have different challenges, is what we believe. For each industry that has grown, their companies have different hierarchies, different org structures, different processes that they've built over a period of time. And each of these we tend to look deeply into to figure out what the right contextual solution for that is, rather than copy pasting. And contextualizing solutions as much as possible is where we believe we can add maximum value. Even for global companies who will come in India to figure out what the solutions for them are for the companies here, they will have to regionalize the solutions by tremendous manner. I will give you one simple example on adoption for many technologies. Many of these companies did not have mobile presence because globally mobile penetration is 10-20% versus desktop penetration is 70-80%. Versus in India, all solutions that truck drivers could use or local vendors could use have to be mobile friendly. Otherwise, adoption for such platforms typically don't come in. And there's a lot of localization that will go in, which other global companies would not support. So I believe there's a lot of Indianization that is required in technology to make sure technology is actually supporting the business functions in Indian industries. It's not going to be a one size fits all solution, but once a solution is deployed, there is going to be higher adoption for sure for these companies. And that is what matters at the end of the day with any technology. I believe inventions are moving 10-20 years of humankind, but commercialization happen 10-20 years later. And we feel these inventions have taken place 20 years ago, but now commercialization has started happening in Indian subcontinent and similar Southeast Asia. We can see the same trends happening. So this is broadly about it. I think pandemic has certainly accelerated all the strategy calls to make this happen. So we're lucky to be in this position right now.
Yeah, quite interesting. Yes, there are a number of solutions available. These solutions will keep coming in. And we are also looking at countrywide networks to open up for creating more of technology initiatives in connecting buyer-sellers. There have been a few questions, but some of the questions which are quite outside the procurement realm. So therefore, things like Mr. Nitin Gadkari's comment on price cap on cement. I am not sure if anyone would want to comment on that.
Yeah, Girish, as you rightly said, it is outside of the domain, but in a very quick answer to the gentleman who raised that question is
Vardhan Sharma, yes.
Vardhan, yes. Vardhan, the only point which we will say is everything which comes in a political domain, so take it with a pinch of salt and do whatever you like. The fact remains is what is logical for your mind is cement constitutes less than 10% of the cost of construction. Just keep that in mind. So if anybody is trying to say that by controlling cost or by controlling cement prices, they will control the cost of construction, take it with a pinch of salt. At least I take it with a pinch of salt. Not because I work in cement industry, but because my mind says anything which contributes less than 10% cannot govern the cost of construction. However, as I said, cement is the cheapest commodity. It is cheaper than the salt. And therefore, any kind of inflation pressure, you all know, you heard Pradeep also talking about the commodity cycle. With so much of prices of fuel going up, everything around is inflation around. And that period of time, politics is politics finally. They have to talk about what masses would like to hear. That's all. That's over to you, Girish.
Yeah, thanks, sir. In fact, if I could now quickly come to a roundup, I think we are almost closing time. We did start a little late thanks to technology hitches. If I could come to each of you for a very quick comment on very, very specifically, what is the one thing that you would like technology to do for your organization or your function? Starting with you, Sir Suresh.
Sorry, I would reframe the question, please.
Yeah, what is the one thing that you would like technology to do for your function that you are in?
Okay, so in my case, I would say, as rightly asked by the people, if my job can be made redundant, I'll be too happy with that. I would like to get a robot or something which can actually do the buying in place of me, and I can do a better job. Because Saurabh and everybody said that, negotiations are all old time tricks. They are not working in this world. So if that is not working, why should I work in the procurement? So the way I would like to contribute to this economy or to this industry will be more like, can somebody make me redundant? That is the way like Amazon and all that we talked about. So I would like to switch to something like that where, any boy which is 24-year-old, any girl which is 20 years old also can actually go and buy these items. Because Amazon is something which is these people's job, not people with 40 years, age. They need to come on the Amazon and buy that. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Kapil, if I could come to you with that same question.
Girish, after Sureshji's point, I didn't get anything what to say, but if we get into on the ground thing, I would say that along with data analytics and all those things, a lot more innovation can be driven through these by connecting multiple ideas, new things that are happening, not just in cement industry, but across other industries. So, like nowadays, people are hearing a word, Uberization of cement. There are many such kind of terms that people are using across. So how do I see it is, anywhere if you find some innovative things happening, if you can contextualize that particular thing in your own industry, then you can create a big differentiation, maybe by cost saving, but at the same time, maybe by increasing the value for the customer or for the company. So from both sides, technology can bring a lot of changes apart from the conventional thing, that is like, reducing your effort, reducing your repetitive works and bringing efficiency. These are the things that I feel technology can bring a big transformation changes in the industry.
Thanks, Kapil. Pradeep, any views on that? What is the one thing that you would like technology to help you with?
Yes, in cement industry for MRO items, the discussions that we had, that number of opportunities are available as far as utilizing the digitization or Uberization as far as it is concerned. That is possible. Besides that, I would rather add to it that there are so many features available to us which we have not been utilizing. Some of the companies are utilizing it to 70%, which are very good, and then there are some companies which might be utilizing those features to 20, 25%, 30%. So I would rather suggest that whatever is available to us, whether it is our ERPs, whether SAP or Oracle or whatever ERPs are available to us, we have not been utilizing them to their extent possible. So let us work towards that first step, and then we look at the strategic sourcing activities that we in order to ensure us from these fluctuations that might come in future. Like in today's scenario, what is happening is even our vendors who have been very honest vendor to us, they are not keeping any huge quantity of stocks with them. And that is why the entire supply chain has become very weak. And it is not ready to take any loads, any fluctuations. So that thing needs to be addressed too. And one way that can be addressed is that we partner with them. We give them opportunity to be very open with us. We give them opportunity to come and say that, okay, these are our variables down the line. And if you are ready to partner with us in taking the ups and downs of those variables, then we might be taking a little more risks, and we will be able to make the entire supply chain more resilient. So that is one thing which is the need of the hour. So these are the two things that I would suggest.
Thank you, Pradeep. Saurabh, if I were to ask you the same question.
Yeah. So I think being in the role what I am today, I look for something from the system which can tell me who are the 3 people in my team who needs may say few minutes from me today, in terms of making them motivated, or maybe that how, I can, sometimes if the gap is more, then I can lose a good guy. So three people whom I should meet today. If the system can tell me, yes, you need to talk to him today. First, three innovations that is happening around the world, which I can link with my activity, which I'm taking care of. And maybe say last one is that what is my, I mean, if you can say what is my company thinking, and maybe that I'm lagging behind to take that target. So which one is that activity where we have to synchronize with the company's goal? I think these three things, if I'm talked about, or it is it is noted on a piece of paper in the morning on my table, I think I can contribute much more.
Yeah, Gaurav, if I were to bring all this back to you, how would you react to it?
Like I said, contextualizing the solution. Look at the different ideas people have. Right? Everyone in the industry feels different solutions are required for their procurement and supply chain. So very happy to hear all of these. I think it's more important to understand and deep down in more detail rather than a webinar can conclude any of these.
It's quite interesting what we have covered over the last 1 hour in terms of various challenges that procurement in the cement industry faces, and also unlike other industry, the procurement challenges of cement is very different, and also the challenges of logistics in the cement industry is also very different from what others would face. For a product which costs less than salt, what is the kind of best I need to do so that I can ensure and stay profitable is a very big challenge that the cement industry has. That said, I believe still that technology can be of use, though one of the things we kind of steered clear in the whole discussion was the use of specific technologies like a blockchain or digital twin or things like that, because primarily we need technology interventions in a lot more operational ways before India can jump onto the blockchain bandwagon or try and make sense out of it. Because even the technology major Gartner, who comes out of the technology hype cycle, is still placing blockchain at the height of the hype rather than. So they are waiting for the hype for the expectations to get punctured. And then people will start realizing what we can do with blockchain. So I've kept it realistic to the kind of technologies that can actually make sense to us as an organization, and what's the kind of. Yes, we did bring about a lot of insights into the use of predictive analytics and prescriptive analytics. We also taught, and these are things which cannot happen without the active use of artificial intelligence and machine learning, which I'm sure people like Gaurav are working on, and is a part of their solution offering. Because today, without AI ML kind of backing, any kind of data analytics becomes impossible. So yes, as far as the future is concerned, yes, it is AI ML based. It is based on technology. It is based on digitalization. Almost all the speakers here are converged to the view that yes, digitalization is the way forward. And within digitalization, looking at operational efficiencies and looking at analytics capabilities are the way forward. I thank all my panelists, Suresh Rathi, Kapil, Pradeep, and Saurabh for sparing their valuable time. I also thank Gaurav doubly, one for partnering with us in this, and also sparing 1 hour to talk to us on technology initiatives. Yes, Saurabh, if you have anything.
Yes, I just wanted to add one thing, that technology adoption is to be like a bowling machine which directly hits the wicket of the batsman, and not like the Indian football team which goes into the D but unable to hit into the goal.
Exactly. Yes, it's a very nice analogy to leave us with. I thank you all. I thank you, Gaurav. I thank you for partnering with us. I look forward to seeing all of you we keep having such interactions. I look forward to inviting you further for such interactions. Thank you very much. I also want to thank the team ISCM for organizing this very well. Thank you, team. Yes, we had a little bit of technical glitch in the initial, but I think it got sorted out. Thanks a lot and have a nice weekend.